You've seen this quote everywhere: mugs, Instagram captions, corporate retreats. In the middle of every difficulty lies opportunity. It's inspiring, it's optimistic, it's completely misunderstood. Because Einstein didn't believe in blind positivity, he believed in something much harder. In the next 30 minutes, we're going to unpack what he actually meant, what he actually said, and why the truth might change how you face difficulty in your own life. Einstein's face is everywhere. On mugs, on startup walls, and PowerPoint decks. And alongside him, this quote: "In the middle of every difficulty lies opportunity." It's treated like sacred wisdom. On LinkedIn, it's used to congratulate someone for getting through layoffs. On Instagram, it's plastered over sunset photos and yoga poses. The problem is, most people who quote it never ask where it actually came from. Was it in a paper, a letter, a speech? No one seems to know, and more importantly, no one seems to care. The quote has become detached from Einstein the man. It's now a brand, and a convenient one. Which raises the question, if we're not even sure he said it, what are we actually inspired by? There's a reason this line is everywhere. It's emotionally perfect, simple, digestible, and it offers hope. The quote feels like a promise: things will get better, and if you're smart or strong or optimistic enough, you'll find a silver lining. It doesn't challenge you, it reassures you, it's comforting, especially in a world that's increasingly uncertain. We crave ideas that make the complex feel simple, and this quote delivers exactly that. It makes us feel like we're in control, but sometimes what comforts us most also blinds us. When people repeat this quote, it's often used to sidestep discomfort, not confront it. Someone shares a setback, and they're met with, well, remember, in the middle of every difficulty lies opportunity. It sounds supportive, but often it just shuts down the conversation. Instead of dealing with pain, loss, or confusion, we're nudged to look for the positive immediately. It's the emotional equivalent of sweeping glass under a rug. And when leaders or influencers use this quote, it can become a subtle way of avoiding complexity. Don't dwell, don't reflect, just reframe it as a win. But not all pain has a purpose. Not all difficulty has an opportunity hidden inside. Modern self-help culture thrives on a single idea: positivity is power. We're taught to reframe struggle, always find the lesson, always stay grateful. But when that mindset becomes a rule, or worse, a moral imperative, it stops being helpful. It becomes denial. Einstein's quote, "Misused," fits perfectly into this narrative. It turns hardship into a game where you're expected to win emotionally. But in doing that, we lose something essential: the space to feel, to process, to think critically. Optimism is valuable, but not when it becomes a shield against truth. And Einstein, more than anyone, was committed to truth over comfort. Albert Einstein has become a quote magnet. He's cited more than almost any other historical figure, often with zero verification. In fact, multiple studies and quote databases suggest that over half of the quotes attributed to him are either falsely credited or badly taken out of context. His name adds instant weight to a sentence. It turns any idea into what sounds like timeless wisdom. But that's exactly why we should be cautious. When we attach a famous name to a feel-good phrase, we stop thinking critically about the phrase itself. We assume it must be wise, because, well, Einstein said it. But what if he didn't? Let's hit pause. Before we go any deeper, we need to ask a very basic question. Where did this quote originate? Surprisingly, there's no record of Einstein ever writing or saying it, not in English, not in German. There's no reference in his books, papers, or even his extensive personal correspondence. In fact, linguistic researchers and historians have spent years trying to track down the source, and the closest match appears to be a paraphrase that surfaced posthumously, likely from a business or self-help text. So we're not just talking about misuse. We're talking about probable misattribution. The quote may not be his at all. The earliest appearances of the phrase come from English language publications in the mid-20th century, well after Einstein's most prolific years. It never appears in his scientific writings or philosophical essays. It seems to have gained traction in American business circles, in management seminars and motivational literature, where Einstein's name was already iconic. It had all the ingredients for viral success: a respected figure, a hopeful message, and no need to verify the source. Over time, repetition turned speculation into assumed truth. And now, the phrase is so common, people rarely question it. But real history tells a more complicated story. Einstein's life was full of upheaval. He fled Germany in 1933 as the Nazi regime rose to power, leaving behind his home, status, and possessions. He lost friends and family to the war. He faced political suspicion in the US and was even under FBI surveillance for decades. Professionally, his theories weren't universally accepted during his lifetime. Many physicists resisted his ideas. And yet, he never stopped working. Not because he believed in some vague concept of opportunity hiding inside hardship, but because he believed in intellectual integrity. His resilience was driven by purpose, not positivity. He knew adversity wasn't a gift. It was an obstacle, one he chose to confront with clarity, not slogans. Einstein's personal letters reveal a man deeply skeptical of platitudes. In a 1946 letter to fellow physicist Max Born, he wrote plainly, "I am allergic to slogans." He wasn't inspired by empty encouragement. He didn't care for motivational fluff. He valued precision, honesty, and inquiry. Over and over again in his writings and conversations, he emphasized the need to question assumptions, not just in science, but in culture and human behavior. For him, optimism was a useful stance only if it was grounded in reason. He didn't believe in optimism for its own sake. He believed in reality, and in doing the hard work of understanding it. That's a far cry from today's Instagram quotes. Einstein wasn't chasing inspiration. He was chasing truth. He built his worldview on logic, evidence, and intellectual rigor. While many remember him with a twinkle in his eye, that charm was paired with an unwavering commitment to reason. He believed that emotions were real, but not reliable. In letters and essays, Einstein consistently advocated for clear thinking, especially, in emotional storms. He once remarked, "Whoever is careless with the truth in small matters cannot be trusted with important matters." This wasn't a man clinging to feel-good mantras. He was navigating some of the darkest chapters in human history, and he believed that clarity, not comfort, was what made progress possible. For Einstein, optimism wasn't a worldview, it was a strategy. When facing obstacles, he didn't smile through them. He studied them, questioned them, and worked through them. Optimism wasn't about believing everything would magically work out. It was about choosing to stay engaged when everything said you should give up. He called this holy curiosity, and that curiosity, not cheerfulness, kept him going. Optimism to him wasn't spiritual or sentimental. It was a lever, something you pulled when you had no other choice. That's what most people miss. His hope was functional, not decorative. During the early 1930s, Einstein was one of the most famous refugees on the planet. He lost his home, his job, and many of his colleagues to the rise of Nazism. Later, in his Princeton years, he struggled with depression and despair, both personally and about the future of humanity. Yet he never turned to blind hope. He wrote prolifically, campaigned against fascism, and spoke out about the dangers of nationalism and nuclear war. His strength came from action and moral clarity, not motivational fluff. In the face of collapse, he didn't say, "Just think positive." He said, "Understand deeply, speak honestly, and act responsibly." In the middle of every difficulty lies opportunity has been turned into a brand, a marketing hook, a slogan on coffee mugs and LinkedIn carousels. But when stripped of context, it becomes almost dangerous. It tells people that their pain is just a growth moment, no need to process it, just move on. That's not clarity, that's denial, dressed as wisdom. Einstein's actual philosophy required you to sit with discomfort, think through it, and respond with intention. But the self-help industry has flattened that into something marketable, something that sells. What once demanded thinking is now used to avoid it. Modern psychology has caught up to what Einstein intuitively understood. Forced positivity can be harmful. Studies in effective neuroscience show that suppressing negative emotions increases stress, reduces cognitive performance, and even impacts physical health. Psychologist Barbara Held called it the tyranny of the positive attitude. And Susan David, in her work on emotional agility, warns against bypassing real emotion in favor of fake cheerfulness. Einstein didn't ignore hardship, he stared it down, and science backs that approach. Resilience doesn't come from pretending, it comes from engaging with truth, even when it hurts. There's no record of Einstein ever writing or speaking the quote, "In the middle of every difficulty lies opportunity." Scholars have searched his German writings and found nothing. The phrase likely emerged after his death, during the optimistic boom of the 1950s when America wanted heroes and simple lessons. Einstein, who had become a cultural icon, was the perfect vessel. He was rebranded as the wise, grandfatherly genius who always saw the bright side. But that wasn't him. The real Einstein was complicated, critical, and often deeply skeptical. This quote may reveal more about our desire for comfort than about Einstein himself. So, why does a misattributed quote like this spread so far, so fast? Because it comforts us. We're wired to crave clarity during confusion, certainty during stress. In that emotional space, complexity feels threatening. So when life feels overwhelming, we grab onto something simple like a motivational quote from a genius and make it mean what we want. Einstein becomes a blank canvas. And this quote, misused, lets us avoid the uncomfortable truth that not all struggles lead to reward. We don't just misquote Einstein. We reshape him into the voice we need, not the voice he actually was. So, should we just throw out the quote altogether? Not necessarily. If we strip away the sugarcoating and approach it like Einstein might have, rationally, humbly, there's something useful left. In the middle of every difficulty lies opportunity. Doesn't need to be an empty slogan, it can be a starting point. But we need to stop pretending that every difficulty is secretly a gift. Instead, we can ask, is there an opportunity here? What actions, grounded in reality, can I take? That's the kind of question Einstein respected. Not blind hope, not slogans, but practical, honest curiosity. Here's the key distinction. Difficulty is not the same as opportunity. Struggle is not inherently redemptive, but it might contain something valuable if you're looking with clear eyes. That's the nuance most people miss. Just because something is hard doesn't mean it's good for you. But difficulty can reveal things. Limits, values, paths you didn't see before. The opportunity isn't guaranteed. It has to be found and often created. Einstein understood that discovery wasn't automatic. It took precision, discomfort, and effort. The same goes for finding value in adversity. There's also power in not rushing to reframe difficulty as a blessing. Sometimes the most honest and Einsteinian thing you can do is to sit with the discomfort, feel it, observe it, let it teach you slowly, and that kind of presence requires more strength than reciting a quote. Einstein wasn't afraid to face bleakness. He lived through exile, war, death, and doubt, and still did his work. Not because he believed things would be okay, but because he acted as if his work mattered. That's courage. Not fake positivity, but grounded persistence in the face of uncertainty. Modern psychology is catching up to what Einstein practiced. Strategic optimism isn't about pretending things are fine. It's a mindset built on two pillars. First, accepting the full emotional reality of difficulty, and second, believing you can influence your situation. This creates psychological resilience. Viktor Frankl wrote about it in Man's Search for Meaning, that suffering, when given meaning and direction, can transform people. Not automatically, not magically, but with intention. Einstein didn't romanticize struggle, he used it, strategically, rationally, and always in service of truth and action. Einstein once wrote, "Out of clutter, find simplicity. From discord, find harmony. In the middle of difficulty lies opportunity." It sounds profound, but the context matters. These weren't inspirational words meant to lift others. They were notes to himself, guiding principles in the intellectual and emotional chaos of his time. He wasn't offering comfort, he was outlining how to navigate through cognitive overload and existential complexity. That last line, the one we've turned into a Pinterest poster, was originally part of a private reflection. And like many things Einstein wrote, it was nuanced, conditional, and aimed at the mind, not the mood. That changes everything. If we look at the original tone and setting of this quote, it becomes clear. It's not about emotional soothing, it's about intellectual clarity. Einstein didn't think struggle automatically contained hope. He believed that under immense pressure, there's a possibility for insight if we meet it with reason, patience, and courage. It's not a guarantee. It's a challenge. This quote isn't for when you want to feel better. It's for when you need to see clearer. That's a subtle but important difference. It demands more from us, not less. It asks us to be awake, not comforted. So, what should we actually do the next time we're overwhelmed or stuck? First, pause. Don't grab for a quote or a quick fix. Don't smother your fear with positivity. Look at the difficulty. Really see it. Ask what part of it is within your influence. Then start with one small rational action. That's how Einstein approached life. Not with hope, but with clarity and motion. You don't need to believe that everything happens for a reason. You just need to believe that some things, even hard ones, can become meaningful if you engage with them intentionally. That's real opportunity. Einstein never wanted to inspire you. He wanted you to think. He knew that clarity is harder than comfort, but far more powerful. And in a culture obsessed with feel-good shortcuts, that's a radical idea. So the next time someone throws a motivational quote at your pain, pause. Think like Einstein. Don't ask, how can I feel better? Ask, what is real? What can I do? Because when you think clearly, bravely, and without illusion, that's where the real opportunity begins. Not in the middle of difficulty, but in the middle of reality. And if this changed the way you see that Einstein quote, if it helped peel back the comfort to reveal something clearer, sharper, stay with that. Keep thinking. If you found this valuable, consider subscribing. Not because of the algorithm, but because this channel is a place where we slow down and ask better questions. Like the video if it sparked one. And in the comments, I want to hear from you. Have you ever felt pressured to be positive when what you needed was honesty, and what do you think is more useful during hard times, hope or clarity? Let's talk about it, not in quotes, but in real thoughts. And if you want to keep pulling the thread on how meaning gets distorted, watch this next. It's the story of a quote that became the unofficial motto of Theranos WeWork Fire Festival, and how fake it till you make it helped build billion-dollar illusions. The video's right here.